Chapter 12 Little Johnny Coconut. After Labor came back for dessert, the phone rang. I grabbed it. Hello, Calvin. Dad? I stretched the phone cord around the kitchen corner and sat on the floor by our dining room table. Darcy and Julio were watching TV. Stella had gone somewhere with her boyfriend, Clarence. Mom and Leeward were sitting in the dark out on the patio. I looked at the dirt under my fingernails, as if what I was supposed to say might be hidden there. Calvin, is that you? Yeah, I'm here. I twisted the mangled phone cord around my fingers. Well, how the heck are you, son? We haven't spoken in ages. And well, I guess that mostly my fault. Huh. But you know how busy I've been at club and all. Think. Yeah, sure, I said. In the background, I heard a yap. My blank head filled with memories. Was that Chewy? Sure was. Want to say hi? Yeah, Dad. Put the phone by his ear. Hang on. I could hear Dad calling Chewy over. Dad fumbled with the phone and then said, Go ahead, he's listening. Chewy, I said, how's it going, boy? You miss me? There was a soft whine and some breathing. Yeah, boy, I miss you too, I said. You like you like Las Vegas? Chewy barked, and Dad laughed. What are you doing, sweetie? I heard someone in the background say. Marissa, Dad's wife. It's Calvin, Dad said. He's talking to Chewy. Oh, how sweet, she said. Dad took the phone back. You made Chewy's day. Calvin, I haven't seen him this excited in a long time. I found his toothpaste. Huh, Chewy toothpaste. I found it under the sink and his old dog shampoo. Remember? Dad laughed. Your mother should have thrown that stuff out years ago. I have a dog now. Her name is Streak. That's great, Calvin. Great name too. What kind of dog it is? Poi dog, you know, a mix. She's bigger than Chewy. She's black and white, and the best dog ever like Chewy is. Dad chuckled. I guess you and I are pretty lucky, huh? Yeah. Dad covered the phone and mumbled something to Marissa. I'll be quick, he said, taking his hands away. Hey, listen, I go to run in a sec. I just wanted to hear your voice and see how you're doing. I'm fine, Dad. Great. Well, gotta run. We'll talk again soon. I'll call you. You take good care of that dog now. I will. You want to talk to Darcy? We talked earlier. Okay. Mind your mom and stay cool, bud. I'm thinking of you. Sure, Dad. Bye. He started talking to Marissa before he hung up. I sat looking at the phone, dad, hearing Chewy, hearing Dad. I hadn't even known I'd missed him, but I sure did now. When I put the phone back in the kitchen, I saw Mom and Leeward on the patio. Mom waved for me to come out. I slid open the screen door, then quickly shut it to keep the mosquitoes out. Was that who I think it was? Mom asked. Yeah, Mom nodded. Did you have a good talk? I guess. I looked down. I could feel grains of sand under my bare feet on the polished cement patio. You could get away from sand, even after Leeward swept. I hardly talked to Dad at all, and Mom knew it. I talked to Chewy, I said, looking up. Mom sighed. At least there was that then. Yeah, but Julio's here, and go on, Cal. I'm just glad he called. I nodded and left. Chapter 13, Captain. I always slept on the top bunk, so Julio took the bottom, which was usually Streak's bed. That's why Julio bought his sleeping bag. Who want to sleep in the dog fuzz? Streak curled up on the floor. Julio pushed up my mattress with his feet. Hey, so what are we doing about the project? We need a good thought. I don't even have a bad one. Yeah, but we got some examples to show their stink worse than dog's breath. Well, yeah, but what do we have to show for it? I mean, like props. What should have we should have collected them. I leaned over the edge of my bunk, collected stinks. That's our project, right? Yeah, but collect stinks. What you are going what you going you use that jar on your desk for? I don't know. I just saved it is all. Good. We can use it for what? He was silent a minute. Dog do could be one example. Julio kicked me through the mattress again. Stop doing that. Julio laughed. It would be a good prop. Ah, am I right? Nobody would forget it. I had to admit Julio was right. But if we bought dog do in the jar to the class, we'd get sent to principal office for sure. Still, I guess it would be good to have examples. Everyone will have them probably. Yeah, I rolled back and looked up at Spidey in his web in the corner of the ceiling. He hadn't moved in weeks. Outside, the buffos down by the river started acting up. The noise they made was really loud, but I liked it. A mosquito sang in my ear and I battled away. That was a sound I hated. Oh man, Julio made a choking sound. I looked down over the edge of the bunk. What? His face was covered by his pillow. Your dog went fut. I caught a whiff and rolled back onto my bed, cracking up. Julio was right down there in the thick of it. He kicked the bottom of my bunk bed hard. Not funny, I flew up an inch, still laughing. But this is so bad. Hey, catch that in the jar. It can be a prop. Julio popped up, grabbed the jar on my desk, and took the lid off. That was a joke, I said. No, it's a good idea. How can you catch a foot? I looked down. Well, go right down by. Streak Okol and scoop it up. Quick before you breathe it all in. Julio captured some string air, clamped the lid down, and jumped back in the bed. Got it, right, bruh? I said, right on. He kicked my bunk again. A while later, I heard Lever outside. His jeep was parked on the grass near my window. I turned out the light, but me and Julio weren't asleep. We had been talking about sneaking out and rowing my skiff up the river in the dark. Boy, Leeward called through the screen, you sleeping? I rolled onto my elbows and looked out the window. No, your friend is in there with you. Yeah? Good. He just he stood just outside the window. You okay? Well, sure. Why wouldn't I be? I just thought, well, you had a phone call. You look little bit down. The buffos were getting quieter now, heading deeper into the night. I rolled onto my back, looked up at the dark ceiling. I'm fine, I said. Good. But listen, you would ever need to talk about anything, you come to see me, okay? Uh, what what he what did he mean? Talk about what? So Livert said, you boys have a good night. I listened to the jeep rumble away until there was no sound but the whisper of woofos hopping in the grass down by the water. Hey, Julio's. Um, hey, Julio said. Yeah, what more worse, dog breath or a dog foot? Chapter 14. Disgusting. I woke up next morning and peeked at my clock on the windowsill. Just afternoon, still early. I thought stretching, but I didn't want to waste the day. I slid down from my bunk and shook Julio. Hey, he groaned. His pillow was over his head to block the light. Streaked what curled by his feet. She raised her head. Julio, get up. He mumbled something I couldn't understand. Come on, we got an experiment to do. He lifted the pillow off his face. We do? Yeah, remember, it was your idea. Find out what's worse, dog breath or dog foot. Julio dropped the pillow back on his face. Gotta be kidding. Get up, we need stuff for our project. All right. He sat up and rubbed his face. Streak jumped up and licked him. He shoved her away. Get your pest. Smell her breath, I said. See if this was. Go, smell it now. Not before breakfast. Look, I said, scratching Streak's chin. Uh, you hurt her feeling. Shh. Stella was at the kitchen sink, gargling with her back to us. A bottle of blue mouthwash sat on her counter. She jumped when we barged in, catching her doing something she should have been doing in the bathroom. She turned the water on and spat into the sink. Where do you get off sneaking up on the people like that? We didn't sneak up, I said. We just came into the kitchen. Julio stood behind me. He was scared of her. Where's mom? I said. What am I, your personal answering machine? All I did was ask. Well, don't, she said on her way out of the kitchen. I opened the fridge and grabbed the milk and then got a box of frosted mini wheats and two bowls. Julio started breathing again. Man, is she always that friendly in the morning? Now you know what I have to live with. We ate mini wheats at the counter by the window. The sun was so bright outside it made me squint. When we were done, we went out through the garage. Streak jumped up and followed us. I tossed her couple mini wheats, then dropped a scoop of dry dog food in her food dish, and then filled up her water bowl, which was bone dry. Streak dug in, looked up at us as he crunched. Okay, I said to Julio, you are ready for experiment? Nope. Good. Let's get that jar. We had serious project going on here. We needed to do some detecting. I got the jar. So who is going to do it? It's your dog. I was hoping he wouldn't say that. Fine, you take notes. I'd take them in my mind. You got a mind? We crouched on grass. Streak sat between us. I set the jar down. I couldn't help wondering what it smelled like inside. I half laughed. This was really dumb. I looked at jar, looked at Streak, shook my head. Can't do it. Come on, Calvin. It's a research, remember? Do it for Mr. Purdy. I picked up jar, put my hand on the lid. This was too disgusting, even for me. I set the jar back on the grass and looked at the Julio. Not me. He said, no way. Streak ran off to the nose around in the grass down by the river. The sun burned through my t-shirt. I looked up and saw Stella pass through the living room in the big front window. Stella, could you make my dog go away by complaining to mom and what I was doing about it? Catching stinks in dark. Chapter 15, Lips. There had to be a solution for Streak. So what was the problem? Fixing her breath? But really, the problem wasn't Streak. It was Mom and Stella, who couldn't tell the difference between a regular stink and a good one. Just then my first good thought popped into my head. Forget that jar, I said. Streak, come here, girl. She came running. I put my arm around her. She was sun warm. I got it, Julio. Oh, yeah? You know how Stella was in the kitchen gargling? We can give some of that stuff to Streak. Julio laughed. This I gotta see. Coco Clown and his gargling dog. Well, maybe she just laps it up. Julio shook his head. You are getting desperate, my friend. Wait, I said. Be right back. I ran into the house and grabbed one of the cereal bowl Julio and I just used. I poured some Stella's blue mouthwash into it. It smelled good. If this works, Streak would have breath that smelled just like Stella's. And how could she complain about that? Genius. I ran back out and set the bowl on the grass. I grinned. Wouldn't it be funny if Streak really could gargle? But wait, what if she just drank it up? Would it hurt her? Nah, it'd only be a sip. Streak headed right for it. I grabbed her. Hang on, girl. First, Julio has to test your breath so we can see if this makes it better. Julio grinned. Nice try. Fine, a fake scowl. Streak, open up. I put my face close to her. She licked my nose. Streak just smelled like a dog. I didn't know what Mom and Stella were complaining about. Stink? Julio asked. Little bit fishy, but no. Huh, you try. I said, just to be sure. He hesitated, then leaned in. Yak, he spat, wiping his lips when Streak licked them. So I asked, that was sick. Streak, meanwhile, lapped up the mouthwash. Hey, pulled her away. Streak worked her mouth like she had something stuck to her tongue. I don't think she liked it. Check her now, Julio said. I did. She never smelled so good. What are you doing? Someone snapped. I jumped and fell back. Hella hovered over us, looking down with her hand on her hips. Did you just smell that dog breath? I shook my head no. Stella grinned. Did you kiss her? No. Stella threw her head back and laughed. She headed into the house singing. Calvin kissed her on the lips. Now the dog is gonna get sick. Calvin kissed her on the... Stop! The screen door slapped shut. I could hear her cackling even in the house. Darcy ran to the window like, what's going on out there? Mom called from garage. Calvin, I turned. Yeah, Mom, could you come here a minute? There's something dead. Something dead. Chapter 16, Something Dead. I headed over to Mom, still angry at Stella. Mom put her hand on my shoulder. A very bad smell drifted through my bedroom window all night long. Can you boys find out where it's coming from and remove it? Sure, Mom. I grabbed a shovel from the garage in case we had to bury something. I got an idea. Hey, Mom, I bet Streak can find it. She has a nose for stuff, and the more good thing I could say about Streak, the better. I believe that 100% Cal. Me, Julio, and Streak set out with our noses and a shovel. I forgotten all about Stella until I saw her in the window making kissy faces at me. I held up the poop scooper's shovel blade and pretended to lick it. Her kissy faces froze. That is so disgusting, she shouted, her voice muffled by the window. Julio tapped my arm. Look, I think your dog found it. Just outside Mom's window, a dead toad lay bloated and maggoty on the grass. Streak crept upon it. No, I said, come away from that. Streak backed off. Julio pulled his t-shirt up over his nose. I bet that was rolled in. Man, that stinks. I grunted and shoveled up the dead buffo. Uh, should we put it in a jar? Sheesh, Calvin, toss that thing. I catapulted it into the bushes. Boing. You probably should have buried it, Julio said. Still going to stink. Too late now. No way. I'm going in those bushes looking for it. Julio tapped my arm. Check out who's here. I turned to see. Maya headed into the yard from the secret. Hey, she said, what are you doing? Scooping up dead stuff? What are you doing? Nothing. I'm bored. Julio glanced up the street. Where's Sheila? Home, I guess. I squinted at her. Why were you spying at us? Maya gave us a surprised, innocent look. Spying? You and Sheila spying by the golf course, spying in the bushes. She glanced at our dogdo bushes and frowned. You must be thinking of something else, someone else. Why would we spy on you? I can just walk up and see you anytime I want. Julio scoffed. We saw it was you. Maya shook her head. A case of mistaken identity. This was going nowhere. Okay, fine, I said. We know it was you, but forget it. What are you and Sheila working on for your project? Maya smiled. Secret. Come on, Julio said. We won't steal it. Tell me yours first. I shook my head. Can't secret. I shook my head. Can't secret. Well, there you go, Maya said. We looked at each other. So Maya said, uh, so I said back. Julio stepped in. So, this? How come Sheila was over at your house? You like her now or what? Maya grinned. She likes Calvin. Shut up, I said. Maya laughed. She she's not so bad. Julio's jaws dropped. Not so bad? Are you kidding? She is Snoopy. She's annoying. She's a pest. She's a kind of sad. That jolted me. Sad? Why? Maya bunched her lips. No brothers and sisters, no friend, really? And her dad just left to live somewhere else for a while. How come? Julio asked. Maya shrugged. I could understand the part about Sheila's dad leaving. Too bad, I said. Julio nodded. Well, she's smart, I guess, even if she is weird. She's not weird, Maya said. And don't talk about my research partner like that. Julio put his hand up in the surrender. Maya punched him in the gut, but not hard. Hey, sorry to break up such fun time, I said, but me and Julio got our project to do. So what it is? I smiled. What's yours? Maya scoffed and headed away. Over here, shoulder, over her shoulder, she said, whatever yours is, ours is better. In fact, if I was you too, I wouldn't even come to school on Tuesday. What does that mean? She laughed and jogged up the street. I didn't like the sound of that. Streak barked once, then cocked her head. Julio snorted. Streak didn't like it either. Chapter 17. Rare Air. On Monday, Mr. Tanaka, the rock star librarian who had musical instruments set up all over the school library, let me, Julio, Willie, and Ruben work on our project during recess. We had things to look up, ideas to nail down. We hunched down around a table. You guys have any props? Willie asked. I reached out into my backpack, pulled out the jar, and held up. An empty jar? I grinned at him and flicked my eyebrows. It just looks empty. Rubin frowned, squinted at the jar. I nudged Willie's knee with mine. What are you guys doing? Still the manga books? Willie nodded. They are kind of weird. Rubin slouched his chair, his leg bouncing. He lifted his chin at the jar on the table. So what it is for? This, Julio said, tapping the lid with his finger, is for what's inside it. Rubin frowned. It's empty. No, Julio said. Inside this jar is rare air. I laughed. Willie looked closer. Really? Julio picked up the jar and peered into it. You can hardly get this kind of air. It's so rare. It came from a special place. Shh, Rubin snorted. No, really, Ruby. You want to smell it? Oh man, I said, screeching my chair back. Willie slapped my arm with the back of his hand and nodded towards Mr. Tanaka, who was giving me a squinty librarian stink eye. Sure, I smell it, Rubin whispered, leaning close. Julio gave Rubin a grave face. I don't know, Ruby. If you smell it, it will go inside your lungs and we won't get it back. Then what will me and Calvin do? Rubin chewed his thumbnail. Well, can't you just go get more where you got it from? Julio nodded, as if considering that. Sure, yeah, we could do that, right, Calvin? I shook my head. I don't know, Julio. It was a dangerous place. But sure, let him smell it. Julio put a jar close to Ruby's nose. You ready? Ready. Take a deep breath when I open it. It because it's going to fly out fast and you might miss it if you don't suck it in quick. Yeah, yeah, let it loose. Julio unscrewed the lid. Now Julio lifted the lid away and Reuben took a huge breath, his nose nearly inside the jar. He sat back and considered. Julio raised his eyebrows. Well, what? Reuben said, clearly disappointed. It was just a regular ear, but kinda swampy. I burst out laughing. Mr. Tanaka tipped back in his chair and crossed his arm. I stopped laughing, tried to anyway. Mr. Tanaka shook his head and let the front leg of his chair drop back onto the floor. Knuckleheads, he mumbled. Willie picked up the empty jar. So what kind of air was it? Julio looked from Reuben to Willie, Willie to Reuben, building up the suspense. He leaned close. Dog foot, he said. Reuben squinted. Then he got it. He grabbed his throat and ran outside to gulp up some fresh air. You stupid, he shouted. Me and Julio fell out of our chair, was rolled on the floor. So funny, even Willie cracked up. Mr. Tanaka stood up and pointed to the door. We gathered up our stuff and Rubens and headed out. Bozos, Mr. Tanaka mumbled, and we filed by. But he was grinning. Now I can say I have seen everything a school librarian can possibly see. Julio flicked his eyebrow. We got more if you get, Mr. Tanaka said. Chapter 18, Sulfur. Streak came slinking out of the garage when Darcy and I go home from school. I squatted down and sat on my heels. Oh man, what now? Even Darcy puckered up. What is that smell, Calvin? Barf. Look. She must have gotten into something down at the river and made her sick. Streak inches up closer, her head hanging down. She knew she was in trouble. Luckily, Mom was at work and Stella wasn't home yet. You just can't stay out of trouble, can you? Streak barked. Time for another bath, you mangy mutt. Can I help you? Darcy asked. I nodded. Sure, go change. We're gonna get wet. Darcy ran into the house. I unfolded crinkly pool and popped out the air ball. As it was blowing up, I saw something green near the paint cans. Oh man, no Petey. I picked up Darcy's stuffed parrot. Streak has been gnawing on it. Luckily, she hadn't ripped it apart, but it was crusty with dried dog spit. I took the pool and the Petey out on the lawn. Jump in, girl. It's this or get sent back to the Humane Society. Streak tilted her head. Streak tilted her head. That's right, I said. So stop fooling around. We'll make it quick. Darcy came out and pulled the hose over. I held Petey up. Look what Streak had. We need to give him a bath too. I'll make sure he's okay. Darcy grinned and ran back to turn onto the water. I held the hose at arm length. Sometimes centipedes come squirting out with the water. Nothing this time. I let water spill into the pool. Streak washed and I gave Petey a quick bath and led him out to dry in the sun. You know what, Dars? We should brush Streak teeth too. We gave Streak a double dose of dog shampoo and ran water over her head. She liked it. Now we are going to brush her teeth, Calvin. Sure, go get the old toothbrush. Look under the sink in our bathroom. Darcy ran into the house and I got Chewy's old toothpaste from the garage. It didn't smell all that great, but it was for dog, right? I ran back before Streak could jump out of the swimming pool. Got something special for you girls. She smelled it. Darcy came back with the red toothbrush. Isn't that Stella's? I said. It's her old one. It was in the bottom drawer. There weren't any under the sink. I shrugged and squeezed out the double dose of the toothpaste. Open her mouth, Darcy wrapped her